You're my everything, all that I am, all that I'll ever be is a result of who you are to me. My heart's desire is to do your will, to pursue your purpose, your plan fulfilled. My soul's delight is to follow you. My goal, my purpose is your will to do. All that I am, all that I'll ever be is a result of who you are to me. All that I want for people to see is the image of I am in me. Every day I live to see. I thank you, God, because you let it be. The breath I breathe is life to me. Everything you are is what I wanna be. Yeah, yeah. All that I am, all that I'll ever be is a result of who you are to me. All that I want for people to see, yeah, is the image of I am in me. All that I want, all that I'll ever be is a result of who you are to me. Yeah. All that I want for people to see, yes, is the image of I am in me. Yeah. Oh, is the image of I am in me. Is the image of I am in me. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Is the image of I am in me. You are, you are, you are, you are.
It's Friday Night Live with Cat Carter. Get ready, set, let's go. Come on. It's Friday night. It's Friday Night Live. It's Friday night. It's Friday night with Cat Carter. It's Friday night. Hey. It's Friday night. It's Friday night. Yeah. It's Friday night with Cat Carter. It's Friday night. It's Friday Night Live. It's Friday night. It's Friday night with Cat Carter. It's Friday night. Hey. It's Friday night. It's Friday Night Live. It's Friday night with Cat Carter. 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 With Cat Carter.
Hey, welcome to Friday Night Live with Dr. Cat Carter. I am not Dr. Cat Carter. I am the media director, Cheryl. I am holding down the fort while our dear host is on the mend. She is in high spirits and she cannot wait to get back to you guys. So let's get this show on the road. Friday Night Live is a positive platform where we come to inform, innovate, and inspire. And tonight's guest is our guest host, and I am not going to waste any time. We're going to get him up here. He is not a stranger to this show. He is a dynamic international recording artist, fantastic guitar player, great personality, awesome cat lover. Let me introduce you to Lemek Yisrael.
What's going on? What's going on, people? Thank y'all so much for tuning in to Friday Night Live with Kat Carter. This is your host and guest host this week, Lemek, and I'm filling in. I can't take Cart's place, but we have her in high spirits, praying for her to get better, and I'm sure she will. And so, in the meantime, unfortunately, you're stuck with me. But I just want to say again, thank you to everybody. That song you just heard is my current single called Say What out today. So make sure that you go and get your hands on that. Trust me, you're not going to want to miss it. It's a good music come from my next record that's upcoming. And that one has even more hits on it that you guys definitely want to stay tuned for. So without further ado, I have my own personal guest that I'm going to have joining us tonight. He's a good friend of mine. He's played with me and many others. My good friend, Jason Tipp. Now, Jason Tipp founded the band Under the Lake nearly 30 years ago. Over the past 3 decades, they have garnered notable accomplishments across their 6 releases: Dive In, Up for Air, People Together, Jazz, Groove, and Attitude, Your Horizon 2, and their include live performances with a whole list of jazz artists such as Joe Sample, Keiko Matsui, Stanley Jordan, my personal favorite guitar player, and a bunch of appearances such as the PDX Jazz Festival, Cathedral Park Jazz Festival, Maui Music Festival, Newport Beach, and the KIFM Smooth Jazz Festival. After 30 years since the first Under the Lake album was released, Jason Tipp has launched his solo career with a new album entitled Table for One, with the first track off the forthcoming album. He reached out to saxophone and producer Darren Ron, which is also a good friend of mine, and they crafted a song called Groove together, and that single launched his career as a solo artist. Everybody, welcome to the stage, my good friend Jason Tipp.
Hey, Lemek, how are you?
What's going on, Jay? How you doing, my friend?
I'm good. It's kind of, it's funny. You call me a friend. I think of you as almost like a second son.
Fair enough. Yes. So for those who don't know, I've known Jay my entire life. He's known me my entire life. He goes way back with my father, Quinn Gerard W. And I've known him since I was like 3, or known of him. I think have you ever come down to visit?
I've never been to New Orleans to visit you and the family.
And I call you my friend.
Yeah.
But no, I'm kidding. But yeah, no, but I've known Jay, and I've heard my dad work on Under the Lake and a lot of the songs you guys created way back in the day. And honestly, that helped a lot in my musical development, hearing all that kind of stuff. So I guess that's a great lead into my first question. But we'll start a little before Under the Lake. So I want to ask, what got you started in music? Because I've told my story many times, and I think everybody's journey on how they get into music is very unique in that regard. So I want to hear your story.
It's kind of funny. I'm not sure what the actual inspiration was
Mhm.
for me. Um, my mother's father played music. She tells stories now. I don't remember hearing them when I was a kid, but she told stories. She tells stories now of when she was growing up. He would play at. They live on a farm in the countryside of Montana, and he
Mhm.
would play at barn dances, and he would play accordion and guitar with his siblings
That's
or
cool.
cousins. And I know that when I was a kid, he played the organ. He had really bad arthritis, and so he played the organ almost as therapy
Uh-huh.
for his stiff hands. So I remember that. I remember him playing organ, and and apparently my father was a drummer when he was a kid, but I never saw my father do anything particularly musical. So maybe it just
Mm.
skipped a generation.
I think he didn't want you playing drums.
Yeah, maybe. But I what turned me on was fourth grade, third grade, fourth grade in
Mhm.
elementary school. They bring in the band instruments,
Mhm.
and they show you all the band instruments, and they get you excited about taking lessons. And I got turned on to trumpet. So I started about the same time. I also started learning guitar, but I
Mhm.
started on trumpet. That was my main instrument for from fourth grade until eighth grade was trumpet, and I played trumpet in band.
Wow. So you played trumpet in band all the way up to that part.
Yeah.
So how did that cycle into keyboards? Like you deciding like, oh, I just want to go piano.
So I played brass instruments all the way through high school. I switched from trumpet to playing in concert band. I played French horn. In
Mhm.
marching band, I played the like the marching version of an F horn.
Mhm.
It's not a French horn because you can't. They don't want you to have
Yeah.
a band, right? And I played trombone, bass trombone in jazz band,
Mhm.
and a bunch of friends that were in the band in high school were had garage bands, so there were a bunch of guitar players for sure and drummers, and they were all in the jazz band with me.
Mhm.
And I still played a little guitar on the side, and as we would mess around and think about uh, forming a band together and doing something together, I was the only one that had any background having played keyboards because when my grandfather passed away, he
Mhm.
left me his organ. And so I kind of piddled around with the organ. And so it
Mhm.
was sort of like, well, if you go buy a keyboard, you can be in the band.
Oh wow.
So yeah, so I went and bought a Roland Juno 60 used.
Oh gosh, take that back.
Yeah, and so that's how I got started. I already knew how to read music,
Mhm.
but I'm really self-taught on piano. And I hesitate to call myself a true piano player because of that, because I never really formally learned how to play piano. I refer to myself as a keyboard player, but you know how it
Mhm.
is.
That
You're largely self-taught, right?
Yeah, I was gonna mention that. So I feel the same way in many respects because I know the level it takes to be classically trained in an instrument. And I hear the differences in musically between players that are classically trained and not to say anybody that isn't is, any lesser of a musician, but it's a different dialect almost because you can hear the refinement in a lot of the music that they play.
Yeah.
And so me being self-taught was I tried taking lessons. I was like, this just sucks the fun out of it, man. Like
Yeah.
not fun anymore. And because I can imagine like tell me if I'm wrong, but for you, it could probably be the same thing where it's like figuring out how to play the instrument was a part of the fun, you
Yeah,
know?
for sure, for sure. And and it's when you're younger, the act of practicing
Mhm.
seems torturous. I
Yeah.
mean, I actually have a hard time understanding how some 8-year-olds or 12-year-olds can be that in
Believe me,
can really do that,
believe me, I am right there with you.
right. So it but now it's funny because I realize the difference in my playing if I have regular time just set aside to just just work on my technique. And it's this,
Mhm.
and it's nothing magical, right? I'm not like
Mhm.
just basic stuff that you just do over and over again to
It's
keep yourself
monotony.
right.
For those people that are the outside looking in, if I can give you any insight into the life of a practicing musician or any musician that has the dedication to set aside time to go practice their instrument, or if they're going to school for it, it is the most boring thing you can imagine. There's no real joy in it. It's literally the same thing as you going to a 9 to 5. Like you learn, hopefully you know what to practice, because that's also a very important thing for a musician to do. It's not just practicing anything. You have to understand what routes to go down, but you have to find those routes, and that's a lot of information that you do beforehand. Then sitting down dedicated to just tackle this one thing, it is so draining sometimes. I know for me it's been very draining, because practicing was always kind of really difficult for me, unless it was something that I was practicing that I found fun.
Yeah.
Like new song, for instance, you go listen to something and you hear maybe a run or passage or something uh, that I heard, and I was like, I gotta go learn that.
Yeah.
That's how I practice. Let me know, is that the same for you?
So I do, I there's some very, very well worn piano exercises I do. Like, have you ever heard of Hannon, the Hannon
Yeah,
exercises?
I've heard it before.
So yeah, so it's like there's, I don't know, 100. I've got a book that's got like 100 exercises,
Mhm.
and they're very repetitive. But what they do is they strengthen your fingers, and
Mhm.
and in some cases stretch, and work on independence of your fourth and fifth finger, right? Or just being able to move up and down the keyboard fluidly.
Mhm.
And I'll do that for maybe 30 minutes when I'm really
Yeah.
well behaved and practicing regularly. I'll do
Yes.
that for 30 minutes, and then I will go into um really just some improvisation. Usually I'll just
Mhm.
sometimes it'll be a tune I want to learn, or an
Mhm.
idea, like for example something from Joe Sample. I'll go, I'm going to try to work on this and try to
Yeah.
figure out what he was doing
Yeah.
on
See.
that, that kind of
Mhm.
stuff. um and then for me, a lot of times that usually drifts into the start of some kind of original musical idea, something
Mhm.
something. And we're at
Yeah.
this point, there's nothing really original, right?
No.
We're ripping off somehow. There's something in our brain that we're
Yeah,
ripping off.
yeah, and to kind of piggyback off of that, I heard a quote before. They say, well, for one, it's only 12 notes,
Yeah.
and every song that has been written and ever will be written has already been written.
Yeah.
So there's nothing. There's always some idea and inspiration you take. It's just always about putting your own twist on it, and at least having the original identity of a song. Um, Even though if you can say that it's inspired by something, but like you were saying about practicing and leading into improv, that's literally how I write all my music. Most of the
Yeah.
time, I'm just noodling and I come up with a idea. I've done that. That actually was a song on my last album, or should I say debut album, Apex. I was just noodling and I just came up with a riff, and then I just put it down, and you build a song out of it. And you never know where that inspiration comes from. Typically it's real spur of the moment, I find.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. The rehearsing and working on stuff, that once you kind of get to the level of, whenever it happens, of maturity, of understanding the impact that it
Mhm.
actually can have for you, it starts to be more rewarding.
Yeah.
So regardless of what that is, right, just
Mhm.
making you a better performer, giving you better technique, or recording, right, it
Yeah.
helps you with your time for sure.
Yes. Yes. Yes, you are completely correct, especially on time. Because I know that you don't realize the rewards until it matters. Like when
Right.
the act you put on stage in front of people, no matter how small or big, that's a lot of time that's gone into it directly or indirectly. And so you appreciate that in certain ways, for sure. I want to piggyback that into two questions I have for you, which are kind of similar, I would imagine. I want you to take us back. What was the start? How did Under the Lake come about? And how did you go about meeting my dad?
Oh, okay, good. I like both of those. So, the I it really is interesting. It comes from the conversation we're having. So,
Mhm.
I was in a band with friends that I had grown up with, and I was the keyboard player. All of a sudden, there were
Mhm.
two guitar players, a bass player, and a drummer. And one of the guitar players was we'd all been kind of into jazz
Mhm.
and late 70s, early 80s kind of stuff. So this is like the middle 80s. And one of the guitar players just was an incredible guitar player. He learned everything that Pat Metheny ever recorded,
Is this
right?
like
He
the
learned.
same guitar player I'm thinking of?
No, a different guy I knew
Ah.
from before. This guy is why am I blanking on his name? Lee Bowers.
Oh, okay.
In St. Louis. This is before I got to Southern California.
Mm.
So Lee really, I think, more than anybody, drove us to doing jazz, contemporary jazz, but at the time it was really more fusiony.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, like they're pulling tunes out of the air that they wanted to learn,
Mhm.
and all of a sudden, so I'm a self-taught keyboard player, and I'm having to learn Jeff Lorber tunes. So, and not like we did Tune 88, which is a fairly easy Lorber tune, but we were doing some pretty aggressive Jeff Lorber tunes. And, back then,
Oh, yeah.
like, I don't know if you know Lorber's catalog very much, but a tune called Right Here. And it was just, it's just rapid fire licks on the keyboard. And we would do, John Scofield, some middle 80s John Scofield, loud jazz.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of stuff. And we did some Metheny.
Mhm.
And so we were just kind of doing those covers, but that led, like we were talking about, you mess around with that stuff.
Yeah.
And it inspires you. You come up with some of your own ideas. So
Mhm.
I started writing my own material then.
Mhm.
And then when I moved from St. Louis to Southern California, and when I did move to San Diego, and I was looking around to start another band, I actually tried doing a cover band again, and it felt corny.
Yeah.
I can't explain it. It just felt corny at that
I know
point
what
in
you mean.
time.
Mhm.
I just didn't want to play cover tunes,
Mhm.
and so this is a long time ago, man. You put ads in the paper.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So I put ads in the paper, looking for a
Wow.
guitarist who wants to work on originals with this kind
Mhm.
of influences, and drummer and a bass player, um and uh that is how I met Dave Harris, who you were referring
Mhm.
to. I met David. That's how I met Nathan Brown, who
Uh-huh.
was in Under Lake for years, both of them, um and that's how we put together Under the Lake. Now, before you ask, the name doesn't come from anywhere. People ask me all the time, and some people have come up with their own answer for what the
Uh-huh.
name is. It was a name probably influenced by either alcohol or recreational drugs at the time. But the whole idea was we need a name for the band,
Mhm.
and we don't have an idea. So what's an idea? And um, somebody said, well, it's kind of interesting because you can't judge a book by a cover, and you don't really know what's under a lake,
Mhm.
until you go under the lake. And so, and it was like,
Ooh.
okay, that works.
Oh, wow. So who said that? Did you say that or somebody else?
I don't recall.
You don't know?
I
Well,
can't credit anybody for that.
yeah, well, whoever you are, you came up with an absolute banger. Because when I tell you, growing up, my dad would play what was it, the People Together album,
Yeah.
and that band Under the Lake was like, oh my goodness, what is up with that name? That's a very unique name. Like, I would have never have thought of a name even in that remote like universe to come up with something like that. So
Well, maybe part of what contributed to that is when I was in college, I went to there was like a seminar where there was a entertainment attorney, like a music entertainment attorney,
Yeah.
who was doing was on a Saturday or something, and a bunch of us went, and he was talking about the importance of having a unique name. And I remember the example he said, imagine you call yourself Johnny Velveeta and the Cheese Tones.
Oh,
and he's like, who's going to do that, right? There's nobody else, but like Kansas, he's like, those guys were lucky, or Chicago, those guys were lucky that, and it started out as Chicago Transit Authority, but they're lucky because that's not a very unique name, and the chances, and we see it all the time. I mean, you when you're traveling, you probably run across all the time. There's bands that,
like nowadays, I would imagine it's a lot more common to have crazy band names like that.
Yeah.
Like Velveeta Cheese. I could completely believe there's a band out there right now that's named that, and they are taken completely seriously. That's the funny
exactly.
But
the funniest band name I ever heard, and this is going back 40 years, was the Black Crack Review.
Oh gosh. Oh my gosh. I wonder what they have.
Yeah.
Get on stage and do nothing but reviews for Black Crack. Oh, that's funny. No, but so met
your dad. No, you asked me about meeting your dad.
Yeah, okay. Hit me with that, and then what we're gonna do is we're gonna play a video from your second to last album, right?
Yeah.
It's
the Last Under the Lake album. So it's my second to last album, but it's the Last Under the Lake album.
So
that's been released. We don't know. There could be another one in the future.
Maybe.
So for everybody, up here behind me on the wall is Quentin Gerard W. This is a photo. Yeah, because he's at least a few pounds lighter here. So this photo's from a while ago.
A couple.
Yeah. So a couple years ago. This is probably the early 2000s, I'm guessing. But
about 2006.
Yeah, okay. So Under Lake is performing in at a Grammy kind of after party in LA, Century City, I think. And a huge party, like huge venue, multiple bands in different rooms performing. And we're there, and the sax player who was working with us at the time didn't show. He was driving up from San Diego. He didn't show. He didn't call. He just no-showed on us. And when we were used to doing the gig, sometimes with a sax player, sometimes without, so it wasn't that big a deal. And we're doing our warm up and playing, and this kind of Wesley Snipes wannabe skinny young guy. Because that's what he looked like then. Your dad looked like a Wesley Snipes knockoff.
Oh,
then.
Guys, honestly, you're not terribly far off from that. I've got a picture in there I see of him. And so he walks up, and he's like, "Hey, man, I'm playing keyboards with a band in the other room, but I'm really a saxophone player. And I was listening to what you guys were playing. I'd love to sit in. I got my sax. Can I sit in?" Yeah.
And how it is. Like, you never know how good somebody's going to be, as a player. And it's like, well, it's not like we have material where you can just sit in and just jam. This is all written music. It's like the changes are not always obvious. It's not right. So, but I got charts. Do you read?
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, I can read anything. I can read. And I was a little like, F you. So I said, okay, we're going to do this tune. We're going to do, whatever tune we did, but it was a fast tune with a very aggressive melody line to play in unison for sax and guitar. And it wasn't like straight 16th notes, although there were a lot of 16th notes. It was very syncopated and mixed up. And so we threw the tune out and we played the tune down, and I got goosebumps. Your dad just nailed it. He read it down. He nailed it. He was perfectly in sync with the guitar player. They sounded fantastic together. And we got to the end of the tune. We stopped. I was like, "You're hired.
Yep.
You can do this gig anytime you want."
And for those who are to harken back to what we were talking about earlier, that's one of the benefits of being formally trained and going to school for music. You can do stuff like that. So we're going to play a song of Under the Lakes. It's called Around the Block, and this actually features my dad on saxophone. Check this out. Enjoy. All right, that was amazing. That was Under the Lake, Around the Block. Now, Jay, tell us, how did you come up with that song?
So that's interesting. And it's interesting to come off of the conversation we were having before, because if you listen to that line, that was me trying to see if I could play something.
Really?
Yeah.
It's original though.
Oh yeah,
that's a very original line, and that's what growing up, I've heard a lot of your music. I'm gonna say this is the biggest compliment I can give you. Your music does not sound like anybody else's. You have, with the stamp on Under the Lake, is such a unique vibe, and I hope my dad doesn't get mad at me for saying this, but he tells me all the time, he's like, dude, Under the Lake back in the day and even now is one of his favorites and one of the greatest fusion bands I think I heard, and should be more popular, because you guys have phenomenal music.
Well, that's a huge compliment. I really appreciate that. And I've always felt like it was different and distinct, and that hasn't led to commercial success. Let me put it that way necessarily. But yeah, exactly. And it's I get blown away. No. And I get blown away every once in a while. Like I ran into somebody in the industry, somebody who works in smooth jazz and contemporary jazz today, and has for decades. And I was telling them that I was re-recording an Under the Lake track, not from that album, from the prior album. And he goes, "Oh, that's my favorite Under the Lake track."
Oh, wow.
And I was like, "What? Yeah, you're joking. Right? You're just saying that. You're just kidding me. You're just saying that as a joke." And he goes, "No, that's my favorite Under the Lake track." And I said, "How do you even have a favorite Under the Lake track? Nobody listens to Under the Lake. How do you have a favorite Under the Lake track?" He goes, "Those who know."
Yeah. And see, that right there is the mark of good music, because I've learned this over the last year. You never know who's watching and listening.
Right.
You have no clue, because you'll have people that you may not think that you have that much commercial success, because you don't see it. It's not visible and it's not tangible for you at this stage in the moment. But that doesn't mean you're not out there, and as you're not reaching people. And I had to watch my dad go through that for a little bit. He's got to reach out of this world, and you know what I mean? But on the surface level, you may not know it, but of course you know it now. But going through those motions, I guess it's a part of being an artist, right? So you don't let any of that stuff kind of dictate how you're gonna move forward when it comes to writing your music, because it's got to be genuine. So why diminish your art to say for commercial success when your music's already touching people already love what you're doing?
Here's the thing that I'm at this late stage in my career and my life, I'm figuring out, which is, I've always been insecure about something related to my music. There's other places in my life where I'm not insecure at all. I'm very confident, and you'd have to slap me in the face to get me to to change that. But regarding my music, I've always been insecure. I've always been insecure about my playing. I've been insecure about my writing. I've been insecure about my performing. And a lot of times I think that came from me being self-taught as opposed to classically, and listening to others that I aspired to be like, and not feeling like I was as good as them. Or, look, I don't have Chick Corea's technique. Yeah. But guess what? Nobody 99 of keyboard players don't have Chick Corea's technique. Yeah. So I don't know why I'm knocking myself for that. But recently I've gotten to the place where, to your point, it's what I do, right? It's I should do my thing, the thing that I can do best. This doesn't mean I have to play with be able to do 64th note, runs up and down the keyboard, right? That's not what I do. Yeah. But I have to be the best version of myself. And somebody else told me a long time ago, I thought this was helpful. The only musician you have to be better than tomorrow is the one you are today.
Yep. I've heard that quote many times. And to get real with you as well, it's funny hearing you talk about being insecure, because I'm completely right there with you. And I've come to that same realization myself a year ago. And my thing is that I always have that urge and that willingness to go learn something new, to kind of challenge myself to get better. Um, but the thing is that I don't, like before, I kind of am in a lane where I'm like seeing how people respond to the stuff that I've put out and the people I've collaborated. And like you said, to your point, man, it really just matters about what you do.
Yeah.
Because there's millions of people that can play, and there's millions of people that are way better than me and way better than I will. But the thing is that what people respond to ain't how fast you play. It's how can you touch people.
That's right.
Like, are people going out of the way to come listen to you compared to somebody else? Why? Because you have soul in your music that they resonate with. I think that's more important than anything else that's superficial. Not to take away from any of that, but that was
No,
something I had to do.
I think that's right. Well, I mean, I have a single that came out last year. I was just looking, was just looking at it earlier today. You know, some of the, you know, the performance of it. It's got 1 million streams. You know,
Congrats, man.
Here. Yeah, thank you.
Shout out to Jay.
And you know, and it got played on Serious Watercolors, and it's which is cool. But it's being played in Jakarta, Indonesia, and in South Africa, and in Germany, and
everywhere.
You know, it's like you step back from it and go, okay, people dig it.
Yeah,
you know, it doesn't have to be, you know, 200 million people don't have to dig it, but people dig what I'm doing.
People are digging, and it's somebody is going out of where it's like, yo, that is my jam. Somebody said that. 1 million plus people said that. That means that's all that is just saying that you're on the right path, and you're doing what matters when it comes to music. Because I'm sure that's what everybody comes into music for, right? You want to, well, should I say this? I'll rephrase that. Anybody who's releasing music, that's the goal, is to be able to get people to listen and give you feedback and really enrich their lives in a meaningful way. Because why if you're only in it what I call like a sports musician, like you know, you get those cats that all they do is just they work on technique and that's all they do for it. They're just super fast players or stuff like that. But you got to be able to write something that can sustain, you know, this thing called life, help people after they have a hard day at work, you know, turn your music on, make that day a little better, you know. I think that's really what matters can compared to maybe, you know, some of the superficial things. But congratulations on all your success with that, and you have a lot more. In fact, one of your singles made it and actually got recognition. Tell me, correct me if I'm wrong, but Time to Roll featuring my dad, Quinn RW, that made it to, was it 18 on the Billboard charts?
No, it actually was in it was in the top 20. I think the highest it got was 15, but it was in the top 20 Billboard charts for like, I don't know, 9 weeks or something ridiculous. When it
had
came out.
a huge success with that single. And so that just goes to show you that you never know, because I'm sure you've gone through it with a lot of people that say, oh, your music's not commercial enough for this, or this is not, radio stations are not going to play, because I'm sure every artist has had to hear that. But all it took was just time.
That's right.
And in the right circumstances, and look what happened. So you're the same guy, same dude that you were then. I mean, maybe a lot better, you know, of course, as the time goes on, but you see how that works. And so it's like, what does it really matter at the end of the day? You get your flowers regardless. People love your stuff.
That's right. And, you know, I mean, unfortunately, we're in a genre that hasn't expanded. It's really narrowed. And at least as far as radio goes, because I remember when I got into this, there were lots of radio stations playing contemporary jazz. Many.
Absolutely.
Terrestrial, right? It was before streaming. It was before we had iPods. It was before all of that, right? Everything was a CD, right? You know, and we got radio airplay, but we never Billboard charted. You know, and so we had sort of our little niche. You know, the kind of stations that played our music versus other music.
Mhm.
And there are artists who were at the same point in their careers when we were starting out.
Yeah.
You know, it was still early in Dave Coz's career. I mean, we just go down the list of people who were like,
Yeah.
they were doing the same gigs we were doing.
You
right?
were around during them
Festival gigs.
days. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. And for whatever reason, what they were doing and what worked for them, you know, just caught fire or clicked differently than our material. Right. And so
Yeah.
some people have gone on and, you know, had
Mhm.
really storied careers, and our path has been a little bit different. But,
Mhm.
you know, it just goes back to, you got to do what you can do. Right. I didn't know how to do anything differently than what we were doing. And we had, by the way, we had a blast. We had a
Yeah.
really good time. I got to work with great people that
Mhm.
inspired me. I mean, you know, it's interesting looking at that video, because listening to your dad play reminded me of all of the things I learned from playing with him
Yeah.
over the years, right? That we listen to each other and we challenge each other when we're on
Mhm.
the stage. And you, oh, I really like that lick you did against
Yeah.
that. I'm gonna figure that out. What you do there? Show me
Yeah.
what you did.
That is hands down. I can attest to this personally because of my story. I used to play with a group that was called, it was a family group. Is my last name Yisrael, but it was at a school called the Neo Jazz School of Music, and I would go to jam nights every Wednesday night. And no matter how much I would practice by myself in this room, it does not compare to the leaps and bounds I made in my playing with other musicians. That is hands down the best. Like, if there's any aspiring artists or musicians in the chat listening, like, that is the best way, hands down, to get better at your instrument, or to make even connections in the industry, because you never know who shows up to stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
It's unrivaled. So that's another little gem that you take from your legacy with, you know, doing so much music over the years, is you learn a lot from a lot of musicians that you play with, because everybody has that unique stamp, and that's what
That's
music
right.
is a bunch of people with individual unique stamps coming together and learning and feeding off of each other to be able to come and grow as a collective and as a unit. That is one of the greatest things, and that'll lead into my next question for you before we get into another song I want to ask you about. But what are some of your biggest teaching moments that you've had in your career in music?
Well, I can think of two, and they're very, very different. And they were actually on the same gig, the same little
Mhm.
mini tour that we did. And it's kind of related.
Mhm.
So we were doing the Maui Music Festival,
Mhm.
I think probably 1995.
Mhm.
So it was after our second album came out. And the Rippingtons were huge at that time. The
Oh yeah,
Rippingtons were huge.
one of my
And
favorite
each of the
bands.
members of the Rippingtons band had like a side band.
Mhm.
Jeff Kashawa was doing his thing, and Steve Reed was doing Bamboo Forest. And we ended up having an opportunity to perform at the Maui Music Festival. So we went over to Maui,
Mhm.
and we're playing, but we weren't on the big stage with the Rippingtons, and I don't know, probably Avenue Blue was there at the time, or whoever was there, right? They're on the big stage. We were on one of the side stages, and we did
Mhm.
like, you know, the daytime gig, you know, after brunch kind of thing. But after us was Steve Reed's Bamboo Forest, which included Steve Reed,
Mhm.
Kim Stone, the bassist from the Rippingtons.
Wow.
Um, I don't remember if there were any other players from the Rippingtons in it, but they were
Mhm.
there, and we were there. We played, you
Mhm.
know, and we're doing our thing. We're having a blast, and it was great. It was beautiful, and we got done. As we got done, and we're packing up our gear, and you kind of turn around, you know, the back of the stage, you're taking your stuff off. Well,
Mhm.
these guys were there. They're coming on after us,
Yeah.
and Kim Stone's there, and he comes up to me. He goes, "Oh, I really love what you're doing," and I
Wow.
went, "What?
Uh-huh.
What?"
Mhm.
I go, "You're Kim Stone.
Yeah.
You're in the Rippingtons. I
Mhm.
love what you do. What are you
Yeah.
talking about? You love what we're doing."
This is
And he
crazy. You
goes,
sound like me.
"Yeah." And he goes, "Here's the thing." He goes, "The Rippingtons are great." But he
Mhm.
said, "I get to play 4 notes a night that I didn't choose. that I get to choose. All the rest of the notes, I play what's written, And he goes, I can tell you guys are really playing. You're really playing. And that's, we just played, and he was like, you're a great live band.
Wow.
And I was like, he's like,
that's
call me anytime.
Huge.
Right.
That is
and
huge.
So it's like, you can't be too in your head about it. It goes back to, you just got to do your thing. You just got to do your thing. And, and try to be the best at your thing, be the best version of you. Right?
That's it. That's what people come to see. That's what people, they don't expect anything else. And I think, it would be a disservice to yourself if you were trying to emulate somebody else verbatim. Because that person already exists. We've already got those guys. Like my favorite guitar player, idolizing growing up was Stanley Jordan. And I take a lot of influence from him, but I mean,
we opened for him.
I know. I was gonna say who you open for, which is just, it's crazy for me to fathom. But you got to be yourself, and that's the biggest thing that anybody can be. So we're gonna lead that into this next tune, 7 a.m. Flight Home. Now tell us a little bit about that, and what was the inspiration behind that name?
So the main line for the idea came to me while I was on a flight. I was, I can't remember if I was listening to some music or listening to something, but it's not unusual for me to be just humming to myself, like, especially at a time like that where you're just kind of sitting waiting and you're like, you can't do, you're just kind of like, and part of the line came to me. And then of course I get my phone and I do the record thing and I sing into the phone to just make sure I captured it. So this wasn't, whatever I took from that, but I was on a 7 a.m. flight coming back home. So I'm not very mysterious with my name. Like, I got a song that's named Lazy Sunday Afternoon. Right?
Jay said, I'm gonna cut all the fat off of this one and make it straight to the point. But however, this one is 7 a.m. Flight Home. Hope you guys enjoy this one. Wow, that was amazing, guys. That was 7 a.m. flight home. This was one of the tunes off. What album was this? Was this Old Friends, New Grooves, or was this Groove Together?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, no, Old Friends, New
It was
Grooves.
Groove Together. I'm sorry. Your Horizon 2. I'm sorry. I got that wrong.
Yeah.
Groove Together is his single. And if you aren't familiar with Jason Tip, he has his own solo record that is out, released a couple years ago. It's called Table for One, which yours truly did a couple songs with, laid the guitar work for him. And so make sure you check out Jason Tip. Jay, it was so amazing having you on Friday Night Live. Thank you so much for coming. If you have anything else you want to say to the lovely people, because they love your music, feel free to plug anything you have. If you got new music coming or anything you want to,
yeah, I'll give you two things. One thing, which is funny watching that, because I love that song.
Yeah,
I've always loved that song, and I thought at the time that was going to be a hit. I thought it was so smooth jazz, and now I listen to it, and I'm like, oh man, it was still fusion.
Oh yeah,
it was still fusion.
You can't get away from it, man.
Yeah, that's nuts. But doing the solo album allowed me to step back from, like, I didn't feel like I had to do Under the Lake, right? So I could step back and do something different. And that's why I worked with producers and learn a little bit more to fit into the format. The first album did great. Table for One, a piano is a table for one, by the way. Yeah. That's why it's Table for One. And then I've just started releasing tracks that will eventually form a second album. There's a single out right now called Memory Lane, co-written and produced by Darren Ron. I've got another single that's not going to go to radio, but it'll be released for streaming at the end of May. It's a remake, a re-recording of an Under the Lake tune called Redhead I Know, co-written by your dad. So it's an old track that we wrote together.
Oh, that is so cool. And I remember the old version that came out of that song. It's a beautiful song. So please make sure you go check out and support this music. It's great music, and share it. And hopefully you'll be able to add that to your everyday rotation. I want to give a shout out to my good friend Jason Tip. Hopefully everybody enjoyed this wonderful interview. And thank you so much for coming. And we'll have you on again, hopefully someday soon. So awesome. To move on from that, thank you guys for coming out. I have been your guest host, Lemek. I also have a couple plugs I want to give myself. I have a brand spanking new single called Say What coming out. It's already out, released today. You can find it on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, wherever you stream stuff. You can probably find it in record stores if they had record stores anymore. But you can go check it out. It's good, funky. It's produced by my good friend Chris Big Dog Davis, who produced it and co-wrote it with me. And that one's going to be off one of the tunes off of my upcoming CD, which will be releasing mid-summer. So make sure you get your hands on that when that comes out. And we'll have some more stuff dropping over the course of the month. Gotta wait for that one. So thank you so much to Jason Tip. Make sure you go check him out, and check out my website as well, Lemek Yisrael Music. You can follow me at Lemek Music on Instagram, Lemek-artist on Facebook. And that's pretty much the only ones I use. So awesome. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Signing off.
Take care.